All right, well, Matt Sterbenz, welcome to Tea Time at the Blister Summit.
Cheerio.
This is kind of amazing. This is definitely the first time I have ever been on camera drinking tea, and I owe it all to you because as we've been shooting these Blister Summit videos, I've thought it would be polite. I would ask each guest, what should we drink during the session? And, some people have suggested whiskey. Others have proposed tequila. And your answer was black tea and oat milk. And I think I have a bit of a reputation as a kind of a coffee guy. And was very intrigued. And I couldn't actually tell you the last time I had tea. But I'm enjoying this very much. And I feel like I should be speaking with a British accent right now.
Well, you have a good British accent.
Well, thank you. I don't know if that was British, but
it passes.
What's the story? Your black tea and oat milk is your thing?
Yeah, I think I'm a lot like you. I was a pot of coffee guy.
Yeah.
And my gut just couldn't take it.
Okay.
And this was like early Forefront days. And it was just like, I can just keep hammering these pots of coffee and just stay hyper productive. And then my stomach started turning on me.
Uh-huh.
So then probably got the tip hey, try out tea.
Yeah.
And then make a thermos of tea. And then when you're done with the hot tea, you can have yourself an iced tea. And so I think I've kind of used tea as my noose to kind of stay caffeinated. Mm-hmm. And here at the summit, it's just been kind of get the booth set up at 8 a.m. and rip around with a lot of the attendees and ski touring, obviously is a tea invoked experience in some capacity, transitioning on the ridge or whatever. So tea finds its way into that activity. And then after ski, it's all right, let's have a beer or two. And then you're cool, we're going to shoot product at 8 p.m. I'm I'll see you there with a thermos of tea. It seemed like a no-brainer. So I don't think I had to think twice about it. And I'm glad that you took me up on it.
I'm enjoying this very much. And for the record, if I had any of the stomach stuff with coffee, I would 100% be a tea guy. And I think this is in my future, the tea deep dive. We're kind of going down that road with coffee currently, and I think tea is on the horizon. Nice. So this is fun, and if I slip into a British accent, we'll know why.
Yeah, no worries.
While it would be delightful to talk about tea for the next 30 or 40 minutes, I think we're going to talk about some skis, and we have had some previous conversations on Blister about WNDR Alpine and some of the things that the company is up to. But, a kind of focus of this video series is to just talk about sort of the current lineup / next year's lineup. And so that is our agenda.
Nice. Yeah. I mean, we have had a couple of nice sit downs here, and this has been a nice progression because, you bared witness to the launch. We were here immediately after. And we presented these ideas we had about how we were going to expand the range, mm-hmm. and how we were going to stay focused around the backcountry experience, and how that was going to have an impact on shape, and what that shape was going to look like ultimately in the kind of changing of seasons, if you will.
Yeah.
And so, as you know, when we debuted, we came out with the 110, the Intention 110, and I felt a little shallow with that initial release because historically, I had come out to market with some shapes in my previous life where, we come out with 3 different models, under a single athlete's influence and design.
Yeah.
And that way we could kind of communicate to a variety of skiers, people East Coast, West Coast, Midwest, whatever. We had kind of a shape throughout that reveal that communicated directly with them. And so when we came out with the 110, I was like, this is going to be a Rockies West Coast ski, but can we flip it and also make it in, 2 different forms? Use a positive camber underfoot with rocker tip and tail, and then just go full reverse camber, which I favor more recently in just kind of my backcountry pursuits. Yeah. I really enjoy having that full reverse camber profile, especially in snowpacks like we have here today in Crested Butte, where you experience a lot of different snow surfaces throughout your descent. And so I didn't do it necessarily to like stand out in the space. I did it to like, hey, like we could kind of double our SKU count. And all we do is just kind of like, swap out the form block is what we call it in the manufacturing setting. So think we have an empty bay, right? And you have your tools, right? Which are your molds, and those have your geometries and all that. But then there's a form block, and some factories are super like sophisticated and they're all automated and they can like have a touch screen and things will move up and down and give them a completely different camber profile for the next mold that they intend to put in the press. For us, we're a little more old school, more straightforward. We have solid form blocks that we just take out of that bay, put a different one in, but we can use the same geometry scheme. And so we started developing, the flexibility of having 2 camber profiles per model. And kind of unbeknownst to me, that was something that hadn't yet really been explored in the space. Now, we've seen makers in the past design skis of the same geometry with the same form, but of different constructions, right? This is a lightweight construction. This is all wood construction. I think Focal did that with the BMT series, if you remember. Mm-hmm. I know DPS has done it, our neighbor in Salt Lake, on a few models. But for me, like that doesn't really work. Like if I'm going to make a model and I'm going to give it its name, like I have to retain its personality. And when you like take out the guts and put something else in, you can't call it the same, in my opinion, or expect consumers to think that it's an iterative design element that they could grow into or out of, depending on their intentions. So for us, it was like, let's think geographically about this. People who are skiing in the backcountry and the East Coast are still likely hitting bed surface, and they're going to love a more cambered planted ski. Mm-hmm. But here out west, here in Crested Butte, we're loving reverse camber skis in the backcountry right now. And I can say that wholeheartedly, having 3 days of the Blister Summit behind us now, taking participants out into the backcountry, skiing really tight aspen grove forests, and also like mature pine forests, because we got kind of a touchy snowpack. We're staying tight with the trees. Yeah. That these reverse camber skis are like maneuvering around terrain quite effortlessly. And that's really important, right? Everybody goes up, everybody comes down. Like we're all in one piece. Nobody's getting jerked around. And so I'm feeling pretty good about like having these 2 camber profiles. So that was the intention 110, And so as we start to think about the seasonality of the range, obviously around here, especially in CB, spring kind of being the turning point where the backcountry snowpack really turns on. And I'm probably going to come back out for it because I've been looking around a lot at some lines that are definitely catching my eye. Yeah. And I'm really impressed with the patience of the local community to that regard, because people are just like, hey, these are beautiful mountains, and we just let them do their thing. And then we come and start knocking on their door come March and April. And so it's been fun to be here in February, just kind of watching these things kind of get caked in, blown in, and you start to see these lines get defined. And so now I feel almost like I'd be robbing myself of the full experience if I don't come out again. But so with the 110, we had a nice kickoff to the season. Obviously throughout the year, 110 is a playful yet stable and buoyant shape. But come spring, when we're getting into corn, we're looking at narrower profiles. So we're stoked to introduce this year the Vital 100. And again, carrying on that alternating camber profile. So making it available in full reverse as well as camber with rocker. And we saw a pretty even split in sales with the Intention 110. Camber versus rocker. It actually swayed a little heavier towards rocker. Now, maybe that was, by design of our marketing, communication, which was probably unconscious. We just didn't realize that a bulk of our content was with the reverse camber skis, and that's what people were catching on. Hmm. But we kind of thought we'd see kind of a more 50-50 split as well with the Vitals. And the actual results most recently said something more in the ballpark of like 65-35.
Which way?
Towards camber.
65% camber, 35 reverse.
That's right. And we were like definitely in the more like the 55-45. Our sales are tracking still with the reverse camber being the more popular 110 shape. But I'm certainly feeling like we're going to see for the history of the Vital that camber is going to likely probably be the more prominent design. And that's cool because we're seeing zip codes from the East Coast now getting online, which is totally intentional and great to see. So we're picking up backcountry skiers in Quebec. We're picking up a lot of people in the Green Mountain State, and it's cool to see that. And we're really looking forward to being able to use those in our local turf out west when the ski season's extended into the spring. I mean, people give up on skiing as soon as like Moab's in, and this winter, which, I don't know to when you get to witness this. This is the 2020-21 season, and we've kind of had a pretty like fallish / springish winter.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't say that like Moab hasn't been in all winter for that matter, but certainly come spring break, like people kind of hang up the skis. And that's when, especially here in CB, but also in the Wasatch, the snowpack turns for the better.
Yeah.
And things start to lock up, and some of the higher objectives really start to become feasible and worth entertaining. So I'm looking forward to skiing more of the Vitals this year than any shape we have, just because it's going to give me that experience, and that's, I guess, some experience I haven't really been able to take in yet.
So a couple questions. The Intention 110, any modifications to it kind of coming into this second season from the original launch, right, 2 years ago?
Yeah, for the 1920 launch, we had a Polonia Aspen hybrid composite core with the algal foam, right? That's, as we know, WNDR Alpine has largely positioned itself uniquely in the space, introducing new materials derived from renewable resources, in this case, microalgae. So we introduced the algal composite core, comprised of aspen and Polonia. We bordered that with ABS, the whole song and dance, and it skied great. But as we went into the second year, we wanted to take the algal core up a notch and introduce what then became the algal wall, which is a cast urethane sidewall. That then also kind of got us thinking more about the core and the strength of the core. And through our internal testing, we realized that Polonia was failing at an unpredictable level. It's a very airy wood, and its fracture lines kind of propagate almost like an avalanche. They don't stay straight across. When you apply force, aspen breaks a clean line. When you apply force to Polonia, it kind of spider cracks. And so we thought, all right, with the foam already integrated into the core, let's just go full domestically sourced aspen and then wrap that with our algal wall, cast urethane sidewall. And that'll then be our algal tech platform, right? That was our material introduction, which made for the 2021 release of the Intention all new. Because now it not only had a newly designed algal core, it also had the algal wall. So that's kind of how we came up with something new to kind of bring in innovation for the 110 in its second year.
Yeah.
And then we carried all of those developments into the release of the Vital 100. Now, I mean, of course, we're continuing to iterate on new ways that we can interrogate the design of skis with our algal technologies.
And this is kind of part of the promise of what you're doing, right? Is WNDR Alpine with Checker Spot, the parent company, as emerging technologies come around and as you see certain performance characteristics that you like, I mean, this will just continue to be a kind of evolutionary thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we largely built the WNDR Alpine brand as a vehicle to kind of showcase our innovation and use it as a proof point that we could share in what we've been able to create with others. Not only just in participants and skiers like us, but also with other brands in the space and other industries where we can look at it as a case study. I don't necessarily see an algal core playing a role in the Ford Motor Company, but I can sit down with the Ford Motor Company and talk them through the pathway in which how we ended up with an algal core in a ski and what that process looked like in terms of interrogating the core materials, of which we were always building skis with in the past, then seeing an opportunity to introduce a new material from a bio-rich resource, ultimately then leading to like algal wall as another performance enabling material characteristic, further leveraging this technology. And so I think that just as a case study is really interesting for other industries to see how technologies like this could help free them of their material limitations. Mm-hmm. And so how cool is it that we get to introduce these materials to the world for the first time through skis? Yeah. And now we have 2 different models to do that with, soon to be 3, which will be a new release for the 21-22 season. Mm-hmm. And that's the whole goal, is like build a quiver, right? Where we can kind of like, we can find comfort in the entire seasonal cycle of backcountry skiing, so that when the conditions are right for fatter skis, we've got that solution. And when things lock up and we're skiing some nice corn, we've got that solution, and that 110 in between for every other day. And so we're going to increase the size range every year so that we can have a little bit greater touch point with our audience. We're also going to continue to expand and explore different ways that we can incorporate our technologies across a platform of different shapes. It's not going to be a real big range. You know, yeah. I've been in that space. It's really difficult to really champion every ski. The more skis you have, the harder it is to keep an eye on all of them. You know, and the categories are always evolving. And so to actually like take in the feedback, which has been abundant, and we're super hyped on that, to hear more from the consumers who have had a chance to ski our skis, to tell us what they thought. Obviously, the more critical, the more influential it can be. So speak up. As you know, with Blister, the more we can tune these skis in. And if we keep the quivers tight, we'll be able to have bigger progressive moves with those skis.
So when I first heard about the Vital 100, I wondered if this was, because you and I didn't talk about it first. And so I was like, I wondered if this is more of their, call it more of a 50-50 ski, or skewing more toward like the Intention 110 is what we're sort of considering our touring ski, or even, soft conditions touring ski. The Vital 100, it's 100. Maybe that's something you want to ski inbounds in more hard packed positions. But you've been talking the whole time about spring touring and corn. Mm-hmm. So from your point of view, just to help people locate this Vital 100, mm-hmm. where we at? What was the intention of this thing?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I guess I had to defend the argument about our relationship with mechanized skiing. And I mean, of course, we're participants of that form of skiing. It's not the lane in which we intend to promote the use of our products, but we are all skiing the resort with our skis a fair bit of time. And when we're testing skis, it is far and away the most efficient way, mm-hmm. And the most advantageous way to get critical feedback of skis across a wide variety of skier types, when you can just bang out laps at the resort. So I mean, we're proud to be home to Alta, Utah, and we love skiing that place. And these skis have all been through the gamut, skiing around Alta in its best way. And yeah, I mean, I'm here in CB, and I'm crushing groomers on that Vital 100. I'm loving it, actually. I think why people might see our skis to be skewed more on the backcountry experience is that, like, for a 100-way ski, to like purposely design it with a mid-20 side cut radius, people would say, well, what's up with that? Mm-hmm. Right? I mean, that's kind of a long radius for a ski that's 100 underfoot that you're intending to bang out vert under the chair. Most of the skis in the test that we see today here at the summit, they're all in the somewhere of like an 18 to 16 meter turn radius for a 100 waist. Mm-hmm. And that's great. They're trenching arc and turns. It's cool. But in the backcountry, like that kind of side cut with that nimble waistline already, it deviates away from the experience that we're trying to get. Mm-hmm. We're really trying to allow the skier to angulate their body weight into the snowpack and use a different type of attack angle in their turns when skiing natural snowpack. It's a completely different way that you orient your turn than you do on a machine snow surface. Yeah. And so, we soften our camber contact points, irrespective of it being a positive cambered ski. There's still a fair bit of rocker and rise in that shovel. And there's not like, an exaggerated amount of camber underfoot, really accentuating that downward pressure point. there was some skis that I grabbed in the HQ, and I'm just like laboring to squeeze the waist together with one hand, almost wondering, are the brakes hanging up? They just have like that much backbone.
Yeah.
And like those skis are sweet, but that's not us.
Uh-huh.
Like our skis are going to close with one hand. It's because we don't want that much downward pressure, because it's going to really force the ski to unfortunately like tunnel down into the deeper snowpack, which will make it harder to rise and make that next turn. So, the resort's going to play a role on how we validate skis. We definitely like see a lot of our users using them inside the resort, and that's great. And we amplify that story. We just don't necessarily originate our campaigns with that point of view, because ultimately we're in this for the experience, And machine skiing has a tendency of being very like, something that was interesting. I think maybe Sage said it. It's very results oriented backcountry
experience oriented.
And you can either be result focused or you can be experience focused.
Yeah.
I've been kind of thinking about that for the last 24 hours. And result focus is like how fast did you ski? How dynamic of a turn did you make? And they can be kind of evaluated skier to skier. Whereas if you go backcountry skiing, it's much more about the overall experience.
Yeah.
And, if the overall experience is about how much fun you had and your line selection and the paintbrush of turns you left behind, like that's the ski doing its job. And so we're really trying to make sure that the shapes that we come out with cater to that experience. So yeah, the Vital is for sure a great ski for inbounds. Use it all the time. But you're going to see that we're unique in the way in which we've shaped that ski. Because the narrower the ski is, naturally the more nimble it is, right? We all know how quick turning a 68 or 72 millimeter ski can be. Extremely reactive.
Yeah.
So as the skis have naturally in the freeride category gotten wider underfoot, some skis have gotten quite sluggish in how they transition from edge to edge. I still find a 100 millimeter wide ski to be very quick and nimble edge to edge. And so if you have that control already, why double down with a really short side cut? Let it breathe a little bit. Run that out. As the skis get wider, that's when you start to introduce a tighter cut, because now you're going to get a more laboring experience going edge to edge on firm snow. So as you'll see in the range and what you can expect of the range to continue to evolve into next year, as we grow wider with our waistlines, we're also going to grow shorter with our radiuses so that we can maintain the same level of nimbleness, if you will. So just because it dumped 2 feet doesn't mean that the next ski you pull out is going to have this wildly different character. It's still going to intentionally make that turn that you sought out after skiing 6 inches the day before, or maybe firm for the 2 weeks before the storm showed up. So we like to see the quiver kind of perform relatively similarly, but then just have a surface area grow to accommodate for the depth of this new snowpack.
What ski were you on when we skied Rambo together the other day?
I was on the 190 Vital.
Okay.
Camber.
Okay.
And I've been thinking about that. So for those listening to this, Rambo is a run that I just recently got tuned into. And when you're sitting on top of a run and you're like, this is going to kind of suck. You know what I mean? But like everybody's into it, so we're all going to hell together. The group is into it. Yeah. So let's hold hands as we jump off the face of this cliff, because if we know the landing's flat, it's going to blow our toenails out. But no, so like we're on top of Rambo, and I'm like, and everybody's got like quite a bit of enthusiasm to ski this. So, 42 years of careful planning. Like one thing I have figured out is that you do not want to be the last person down when the whole group is going to ski something that looks terrifying. Get yourself down that as soon as you can, because it's fewer people watching you. It's going to make it easier on you. So you can just kind of struggle through it in the areas where you're totally not having it. And then you can just kind of be one of the people at the bottom now judging everybody coming down. So I jumped into Rambo pretty quick, and I definitely didn't know what I was getting into. And I got tuned onto a term called choppin' broccoli. Yeah. Which I had never heard. And I would have never considered chopping broccoli to be something brought up in the world of skiing. But it's the small little tree tops and whatever may be left of like tree clearing that you have to like try to ski around. But it's every third turn, you're going to split a tree in your turn. And unfortunately, sometimes, you end up leaving a ski behind because it's tucked under one of these tree tops. And you have to free fall your upper body. And once you can like take the weight off your skis, you can then jerk it around So you have to commit your torso to the turn before your feet can come on like a 50-degree pitch of some like really like hastily tree cut lane through this tight pine forest. And it's like from a road to a bench. It's just a singular slope. So I was on a cambered 190. I mean, 190, I would prefer to be in the mid 80s, but a 100-way ski, a 190 is nice. No complaints there. Camber, still not sure about that selection. I mean, had I had the option, I probably would have opted for a reverse camber in that setting, just because I wouldn't have been fighting that outward contact point of camber. But then again, like when I had to make like a pretty significant like hop turn, it was nice knowing exactly the length of my ski, because the camber gives you that sensation out front. I've skied a lot of skis where there's like really gradual, like really elongated tip and tail rocker profiles. And that even like doubled down with like really exaggerated taper angles. You are skiing quite a short ski, but in actuality, it's like full length, but you just don't feel that. So with like, traditional camber, you at least know exactly where your ski is tip to tail at all times. So maybe it was the better of the two options. If I go back and ski there, I'd prefer to be on a shorter ski probably. But I'm not sure I'm going to go back there.
All right.
I mean, there's a lot to ski on this mountain that you don't have to free fall out of your turn for. But it's cool. It's cool. Like the locals here rip, and they probably love. I mean, I love taking people into experiences that are going to make them slightly uncomfortable. Obviously, you do it with people who can rise to the occasion.
We all thought you could handle it.
Yeah, that was good. So that was a vouch of confidence that I probably thrived on. So I was like, cool, I'm in. You guys wouldn't take me here if I couldn't do it. So let's go.
That's funny.
Yeah. So Rambo, I think it's a kind of a cool thing for sure. Something special about this book.
So should we talk more about the materials here?
I think so.
I think we're good with the 2 versions of the Intention 110. We've got the 2 versions of the Vital 100. And where to?
Well, I mean, like we said earlier, materials are where we're really looking to differentiate ourselves. We think that's a very unique value proposition that we bring to the industry. And I've been designing skis for a long time, and I've been witness to a lot of new brands come to market throughout the course of my history in the ski industry. And I've always said that there's always room for another brand, so long as they bring something unique to the table.
Yeah.
And it's okay if it's unique to them and them only, if like that's their thing. But it's rad when it's something more than them that's unique, because that's going to have a knock-on effect for the entire industry, right? I mean, if they come in with really clever marketing and great storytelling, it will have an impact on how other brands think about how they should roll out campaigns in the future. Maybe be a little more tactful with their audience and really like tell a compelling story that makes everybody just want to go skiing, right? But if there's something like, that has kind of a ripple effect through the industry because of what separates them, or maybe what made them unique in the space, I think all the better for that. And so I've really been like honored and proud to work with Checkerspot to develop a technology platform that gives WNDR Alpine that opportunity to truly differentiate itself and bring something new that the entire industry can thrive on going outward. And so democratizing innovation is a big thing we use at Checkerspot. And with WNDR Alpine and the Algal Tech platform, it gives us a lot of talking points with other brands. We don't consider them competitors. The volume of skis which we sell with WNDR Alpine should not be a threat to any manufacturer in the space. It's really about being a prospective partner and being a solution for innovation that I think everybody should be a little bit hungry for at this stage in the game. Because what separates all those skis in the HQ is aesthetics and storytelling. A lot of skis have very similar geometry. If we can give them one additional way to differentiate themselves and give them a pathway to showing maybe a little bit more of how they're creating a product that's unique to them using renewable materials, I think that then in that capacity, we've done our job and we've earned our keep.
Yeah. By the way, I can say too, and it's one of the really cool things about this event, this Blister Summit, I was talking to another competitor here, another ski manufacturer, and they told me, you weren't around, this was just the two of us talking, and they were like, it's really interesting what those guys are doing, and we might be interested in checking this out. And I'm like, that was really cool to me, because that was kind of the whole point of this, is like, let's bring interesting people from interesting companies together and just put them in a bit of a different environment, and we can chop things up and we can have conversations and panels on ski design and the like. And it's been pretty rewarding to see kind of the initial vision of that literally getting played out now in real time. And I think that just underscores your point, where it's like, we're not here to try to be a competitor. We're here to have conversations and see what maybe might be an interesting trend for the industry to get on board with. And I actually literally just had that conversation. So
cool.
Yeah,
that's great to hear. And that's certainly one of our hopes as a takeaway from this event, that we can establish new contacts and have thoughtful conversations about ways to work with each other to succeed in our own respective ways. Ski tests, and not to get too far off topic, but like ski tests were largely designed, magazine ski tests namely.
Yeah.
Were about critical analysis of skis. But the goal of the editors were to assemble a group of hard good product like managers and directors to like lower their guard, be a bit more vulnerable, and get to know the people who you perceive to be your competitor. Go out and have a ski day with us. We're going to test the skis. You guys go skiing. Tell the office you're busy at a ski test. But, you two from competing big brands, go skiing together. Realize how much you guys have in common. And let's just kind of like, for a week, let's just lower our guard a little bit and just have fun skiing. And that's great. And like a lot of that was achieved in the past, 10, 15 years of ski tests. And that's great. Kudos to them. But no one has brought together an environment where there's thoughtful conversation, right? We already know you guys are going to ski together. And we're going to have participants here skiing your skis. And there's going to be a traditional atmosphere of demo happening. But then there's going to be panel conversations where we're going to talk about overarching topics that everybody has a point of view and everybody needs to weigh in on. And that is like one step further to getting the industry to really start to work together. Because together we can accomplish a lot. Apart, we're only going to go so far. And I would argue that a lot of the innovation that I think is feasible in the industry has not yet happened, because everybody has held such a high guard of secrecy between one another. And so I see this being a much more community-centric event. And we definitely want to be perceived as a community-first, inclusive brand who's thriving with a technology platform that can be widespread influential, not only in this category of hard goods, but also in soft goods and in other industries adjacent to skiing. So we'll see. And I think it's platforms like this that like we thrive on. We love coming to stuff like this. Our CEO, Charlie Dimmler at Checkerspot, very rarely turns down a conference speaking opportunity. Blown away at his calendar of speaking obligations. And that's largely what has gotten us to where we are already in just a short handful of years.
Yeah.
And so it's because we're willing to talk about our story and interact with brands that see collaboration as a key to success. And so thanks for bringing these people here and having us.
Yeah.
And I think, speaking to what those values stand for, most recently, as of last week, mind you, this is February 21. As of last week, we got recognized as a certified B-Corp entity.
Yeah.
And we're the first ski brand to ever establish B certification. A lot of people may wonder, what is B certification? Well, it's a third-party agency that evaluates your impact of doing good for people and by the planet. And there's a variety of different ways that you can get scored. And if you're scored at an acceptable passing grade, if you will, they'll certify you. And then you have to continue to iterate your performance because now you've set a baseline and they're going to hold you accountable to elevate your standards. You don't just get that grade for life. Like if you don't do a thing after you were initially awarded certification, you will lose your certification. You have to constantly improve.
Yeah.
And a big way that they're able to grow the recognition and, kind of honor those who have achieved it is by networking with other B certified entities. And so one of the things that I sought out as a goal for 2021, not only for Checkerspot, but also for WNDR Alpine, was to become B certified. Because I think as we can help B Labs, which is the third party that provides the certification, gain more recognition, then we can help also explore other partners who are seeking similar accreditation. And through that process, we will be able to provide them with technologies that can help them achieve their own certification, And it doesn't just have to be in ski, but like now that we're on the board, we have exposure to a variety of different entities. One, which I know is near and dear to Blister, is Taos.
Yeah.
And so as soon as their certification went up, Taos, boom, put WNDR Alpine on their Instagram feed like that day, talking about how proud they were that we had become part of their community at B Labs. Like how sweet is that? What a cool touch point, for us to have in that respect. And so Checkerspot had actually already established its own B certification last year. But one of the problems that I had was introducing WNDR Alpine underneath that umbrella. Because, with Checkerspot being a technology company, we do a lot of research and a lot of education. But we at WNDR Alpine needed our own innovative business model. And so what we sought to champion was use of bio-rich materials and reduction in waste stream. And the two dovetailed to one another. If you can disassemble the classic construction of a ski and envision a different way of doing it, keeping the waste impact in mind, you arrive to some pretty clever manufacturing techniques that then give optionality to the technology itself to interface. So we went from working with extruded plastics to cast urethanes. We went from diversion of waste stream to post-production inputs into future products, and exploring circularity in a much more sincere way. And I can speak like wholeheartedly, I didn't focus on any of that in my previous life, in my introduction to ski design in the industry. But as I've kind of come into, maybe a more mature mindset and have fortunately been, given the opportunity to work with Checkerspot, I've definitely started to see the impact that we have made in ways in which we can improve in some of these, decade-old manufacturing techniques.
Yeah. And it was really interesting, right? We had at this summit, this panel on ski design and we had, spokespeople from 4 different companies. And when I asked the question, what trend do you like best in ski design right now? There was a unanimous agreement on sustainability. So when you were talking about not that long ago, when you were designing and building skis, it wasn't even really a thought. We just had a really interesting collection of companies say that was the thing they liked best. Like, we're trending the right way right now with this. And I just mentioned a couple minutes ago, one of the other companies here who was like, we need to talk to those guys and, at WNDR Alpine and check out what they're doing. Like, I think this is something I think we can be proud of. And, and I think kudos to you guys for, kind of being on the frontier of this and, just kind of reiterating, coming back to all the things you've already said about like, this should be an industry-wide thing. It should be something that our industry should just be doing and should be proud of doing it the right way together. And, but yeah, it was, I was not expecting that on that panel the other day. And so.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I definitely saw that undertone as well. If you would have asked me, 5 years ago, what are you doing for sustainability? I fully would have thought you're just talking about like cash flow, like monetarily.
Yeah.
How are you doing? Like, what are you going to do around sustainability? Because I was operating at like a net loss. And it was like, oh, I'm going to change up distribution. I'm going to like, you know what I mean? Weed out the line and stop focusing on some of these, 20 percenters and put my energy into the 80 percenters, I didn't think about materials. And so it's good that we've been able to kind of wake people up a little bit to think about it. And yeah, I don't know. I mean, we got to deliver on it.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing for me. Right. Got to deliver on it. And as an industry, we're not a bunch of talkers. Like, we're doers. Everybody here is a doer. So I feel confident that there's going to be some deliverables. And I'm confident that we're going to have a helping hand in that. Mm-hmm. And that it's not just for the Prosperity, Wonder Alpine, or Checker Spot, but it's the overall cause that I want to see our industry become like rich with innovation again. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to go to ski trade shows and not see half of my favorite brands there because they have nothing to show. I want to see everybody there, bells on, that is like thriving to debut their newest thing. Mm. Like, that was the ski industry I got into when I was a teenager. And like, that's the industry that I want to continue to carry forward. Mm. So let sustainability be what moves us there.
Yeah. Well, hey man, I appreciate the conversation and the black tea. Yeah. I'm out.
Running low.
I might need a refill.
Let's do it.
Always good to talk. And I appreciate getting the lowdown of the current lineup and getting the latest on what you guys are doing. And best of luck going forward with all of this.
We appreciate it.
Yeah, man.
Thanks to the Blister community for supporting us.
Till the next time, maybe we'll get you to back down Rambo in the next day or two.
Looking forward to it.
Okay, cool. All right, Matt.
Cheers, buddy.